What's going on, guys? We are here with the NIL podcast. We're here in Las Vegas. You got to check out the view behind me. We're here with Haseeb. He is with the Orlando Magic, and we're covering Summer League, but we're also going to get into a little bit of his journey, how he got here, and maybe some inside scoop stuff. We'll keep it pretty simple in the beginning, and we'll dive a little bit deeper. We'll drill down. But Haseeb, where are you from?
I am born in Pakistan, raised in Miami my whole life. I came to America after a couple months I was born. Went to Miami right after, my mom, migrated from my country to here, and been in Miami most of my life. And then after that, my basketball journey started in Miami originally, and then it just spread, throughout the States and mainly in Florida. Me and Grayson, we go way back. So, meeting him at IMG, that's where I originally had started my player development career. And that from that point on, it's been up, man.
Yeah. You talked about IMG. I'm just going to be very clear. I was at IMG for a summer camp. I was not there as an athlete. My parents so graciously sent me there, and we were able to connect. That's when you were working with Vander Blue, and then his jump from the G League to the Lakers during that time. I do remember following you on Instagram since like the very beginning, and then one time you like posted, and I had some things where I was doing some NIL, and I was like, let me just see if this guy's phone number still works, and you answered, and we really started to hit it off. Let's talk about your IMG journey. What were you drawn to IMG? Why were you there? All I knew is I was a camper and you were my coach. That's it.
So interesting fact about IMG was, my journey at IMG, I was a student at UCF at one point between 2010 and 2013. And they had an internship program or opportunities in the summer where I could go different places and get an internship. So my first internship with IMG was around 2010. I think that was the summer. And it was a sports management internship. So,
like big time.
Yeah. So I went in there. Chris King was one of my first mentors to work with regarding that sports management side. Shout out to him. You guys are going to hear a bunch of shout outs from my mentors. So that's going to be big time. So he gave me an opportunity to manage NFL players, NBA players, tennis players, like managing their schedules, their programs, their workout plans, and even ideally their nutrition plan. I would get with the nutritionist and figure out, how that was. Like it was everything.
Yeah.
Provide everything.
Well, they had like the sports science, Gatorade,
everything, mental conditioning, everything. So my plan was to organize that, make sure the athletes that come in are set in the right direction with whatever they need. So that summer was great, and then I realized their basketball department was was up and coming.
Yeah.
Everybody that knows IMG is originally a tennis academy, and then it just started blowing up. So I think for me was I want to be involved in the basketball department more because that's where my heart is. So I had connected with Dan Bartow and one of the coaches there, and I was like, hey, I want to come back here and intern at some point and be involved with coaching. So I think one summer went by for sports management, went back to school at UCF, and then little by little I stayed in touch. And then they're like, hey, we would love for you to come back and be a part of the basketball program. And that's where you and I met, was in that summer. I think it's 2011 or 2012, whenever it was. It's so far back, I'm forgetting the time.
Yeah, no, I don't even remember.
So the crazy part about it is that they brought me in as a basketball coach, and they provided housing. They couldn't provide income, but they provided housing, food, and thought, hey, this is a great opportunity. And then from there, I would work out myself at the time. I was still trying to find my way to be a professional. I played overseas for a couple months, but it didn't work out. But I was like, hey, maybe me being at IMG could bring me back to, the playing side of it. But it more so taught me like, hey, I got to apply what I learned in school because I was a physiology major. So I was like, hey, I could learn something out of this. So some of the players at IMG would love the workouts they saw me do for myself, so they would hop in. So once they started getting into my own workouts, they're like, yo, like you're really good at, training basketball. And I was like, really? I'm just doing what I know is going to work. Because I'm not the most athletic guy on the court. But some of those guys will also see me play 5-on-5s and see how I'm effectively moving and, distributing the ball and actually being a good basketball player and making other guys feel good. Like I was never trying to be the best scorer, but I was trying to be the best playmaker. So they kind of felt that that energy from me as a player. So then from that point on, guys would hit me up like, hey, can we work out again? Can we work out again? And then the coaches on the staff in IMG, they started noticing like, hey,
Oh,
you know
he's
what?
locked in.
Yeah, he's locked in. And then some of my drills did make sense. It was not just traditional, like
Weave through the
yeah,
cones
weave through the
type.
cone. Like it's very read and react. It's very,
Intentional work.
intentional. And I don't want to get too much into detail with it, but it was very much influenced with biomechanics and physiology. Like a lot of my stuff was very, how can I have that advantage? So then they started giving more opportunities, and I started doing pre-draft. So IMG was very big on pre-draft training.
Yeah, I remember they had like one of the first Indian.
Yeah, they had Satnam Singh. He was growing up. Yeah, he had a pre-draft there, and what's even cool is that when they threw me into the whole pre-draft opportunity in the program, Coach Bardo, he's another mentor of mine at IMG. He was more of the player development and coaching mentor. He taught me about how to sequentially help move players in angles that they need to, be able to be efficient in. So Jonathan Isaac was there at the time.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
and he was in post grad, and not knowing where I'm at now, I'm like, hey, Jonathan Isaac, I'm being told to work you out on the court, and which was cool is that now I'm in the NBA with him.
Tit for tat.
It's different tabs. So he got into the NBA the same time I got into the G League with the same team.
Oh, word.
So like when he was drafted 2017, that's when I got put on with the Magic. So a year before that, 2015, I think it was, I was doing on-court workouts with him at IMG. So I thought it was cool that me and him still had that relationship. But the trust from Dan Bardo and the staff was just like, hey, not only are you going to work with Jonathan Isaac, you're going to work with the other pros we have coming into town. Vanderblue was one of them.
Yeah.
And, even Mo Harkless, even at the time, there was DeJuan Blair, Jared Jeffries. There was a bunch of older NBA players that was there that had me involved.
Yeah.
So I thought it was cool. It was a great influence because I was never the type of guy that was starstruck or like, oh my God, it's an NBA player. Like it was more about like I'm one of them. Like I'm here to talk with you about the game.
Yeah.
And even seeing Robert Covington, he was another guy that, I was helping out as well. And seeing him make it from where he was then to, to make it through the G League and make it to the NBA and then, working his way up. So like, I never called myself a guy that trains all these guys. It's more of like how much of an influence I can have over them because they might have their own trainer. They might have somebody that's helping them daily. But my job was just in that moment that they're there, the day that I clock in, how am I going to service you?
Yeah. So. Yeah. I feel like, the relationships that you create, really, they really do matter. And it's such like a cliche thing because they always say it's all about who you know. Right. But really, with these young, rookies coming into the draft or like you say, maybe some vets that you work with now, who has like a story to you that stands out that, maybe inspired you or moved you in a way?
Man, it's a lot of players that really influenced me and seeing their journey. And I think Vanderblue is one of them. And Vanderblue also gave me an opportunity to work with one of his college teammates, which is Jay Crowder. And he was the one that kind of put me on with him. And ever since then, seeing both their stories of where they started to where they're trying to make it and then how long they want to stay in the league and, prosper even further, it kind of influenced me because sometimes you always got to tell yourself, everybody has a story. You have a story. I have a story. People watching have a story. I'll never say that my story will always be or ever be better than someone else's. I'm always intrigued by what can I get out of your story. So I saw the hunger and drive in both of those guys and how they wanted to not just help themselves but feed their families with what they were capable of doing. So that opportunity that I even had with Jay Crowder and Vanderblue really put me in the scene of being around elite basketball players and what their needs are and how they move. So I think ideally for me was how can I grow in that realm because I had to take myself away as being a player and I had to amplify myself as a coach yeah. And then as a person that actually develops in a mental, physical, and spiritual way.
Yeah. So I want to read this verbatim. Your work involved building players' confidence to perform under pressure. Can you tell us about a time that you struggled with your own confidence as a coach and how you overcame it?
That's a great question. Before I got into the NBA, I had a period of me having my own company called May Performance down in Miami. And I got a good team of guys down there that they're holding it down for me. Between IMG and me getting into the league, there was a gap that, I had to make my own make my own income. You know, my parents, my mom and dad, they're very supportive, but they weren't into sports at all. So them seeing me graduate college and still 5-6 years in, still trying to figure it out. I was like, hey, like, trust me, this is gonna work. You know, I had a belief in my network. And there was a time where I wasn't getting clients. You know, I was working with kids, I was working with regular 9 to 5 people, helping with their fitness. And to a point, I felt like there was a drought of like, man, am I not a good trainer? Am I not good at what I do? So I had to reevaluate. And it was not really about how much, because I felt like I knew a lot, you know, being around the influence of the NBA, being around the influence of, just NBA players. I was like, yo, why am I not taking that big step forward, you know? And then it just came down to surrounding myself with people that can help me get there. Yeah. So there's a quote I live by: 6 degrees of separation. If people know about 6 degrees of separation, is it's in a sense of 6 people that you know in your network. Those 6 people don't know each other. Let's say that. Think of 6 random people that don't know each other. Those 6 people are connected to the whole world. Somebody knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. So for me, it was always like, when I understood that concept of 6 degrees of separation, that's when I took my training to a whole nother level. So like, okay, if I want to tap into learning how to be with this player or take myself to the NBA, my goal was, if I can't play in the NBA, why not work in it? That's been my belief since day one. That's my cousins, my family, they knew that. So ideally, like, I put myself in a situation like, you know what, let me get out of this slump that I'm in, me not having clients, me not making money, me struggling, trying to help my parents and provide them. I was like, let me try the 6 degrees of separation. So that concept led me to like improve my way of talking, improve my way of presenting myself, putting myself in positions to be in places where all these type of people are. And that kind of led to where I'm at today, and it's going to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So it seems like the Orlando Magic's culture has taken like the best turn ever. And under Mosley, emphasis of camaraderie and selflessness, as seen with players like Banchero and Wagner. How do you foster that team first mentality in training sessions or practices? And can you share a story of a player that embodies that?
That's a great question, because being in the Orlando Magic organization for about 8.5, going on 9 years, being in the G League for 6, now going on my 3rd year in the league, like, there's so many players that have came through that have embodied that mindset and that culture. It's just hard to emphasize just one. I just know, like, the staff and the coaches that we have, we've had a bigger influence on building that mentality. And then whoever comes in, they're gonna adapt and get better from it. So I can say there's a quite bit of players in the G League that I've had a huge emphasis on, and let alone be influenced by, that have kind of led to that. And the culture that we have now in Orlando is so spiritually and mentally and physically driven. Like, I'm gonna tap into all that, because we're doing things that are not just putting guys in an uncomfortable situation, but it's putting them in a situation that, hey, if you believe in what we're providing you, you're going to see the benefits. And they're slowly seeing that. And it takes time. It takes confidence. It takes repetition. So my mentors and Coach Tador and Coach Arnie, they've really been big on applying what they've known for years in the NBA. They've been in the NBA for so long that I'm just walking into it and I'm just like, hey, I'm hungry for more information. Like, what can I do with what you know to help these guys out? And it's still in the mix. Like, we're going to see how things pan out. I still feel like as we're going up in our trajectory and, the roster moves we made, I think they're great. And, the younger guys, the young pieces that we have, they fit the culture. I think all that stuff is going to pan out. So we'll see how that goes, and we can figure that part out at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is like one of the biggest things that you were able to learn from going from the G League for almost a decade, and now going into full-time full-time NBA season? What did you bring from the G League that you try to like implement at the highest level?
Oh, I just think it was just work ethic. I was a big person on being a hard worker, showing 100% effort. I was never the smartest guy in the room, and I always felt like I needed to know more. Always felt like there was a disadvantage from where I'm from, being a factor in, a lot of these things. So I felt like if I could be the hardest worker, that's gonna trump what my thought process is. So main thing was like, hey, if you give me a time to be there early, I'm there an hour early. You know what I mean? Like if you need extra work, I'm gonna do the extra work. Or even come up with ideas and share ideas, or even like, hey, I came up with this thought process or philosophy or some type of workout. What do you think of it? So like my mentors are very well and opening, are very welcoming, excuse me, of what I might have in mind, whether they like it or not. That's the that's the camaraderie and the relationship I need. Like, hey, if I come up with a drill, it's not effective, cool, I move on to the next one. Or like I come up with an idea, if it's effective, it works, all right, let's move forward with it. So like I think with us as an organization, what makes an organization great is how everybody's able to share their ideas and then still be able to believe in, you know, the paradigm of what the motto is and what the philosophy is. So I think what we're doing right now is really great.
Yeah. Well, being such a such a young team, like the vet, is kind of young in my eyes. What is a hurdle or a mental hurdle that rookies and sophomores have to go through?
I think it comes down to how well their routine is established through the season. I think when guys get off a routine, then they're relying on things that they can't control. That kind of plays a factor in how they might end up playing a certain type of game or a certain type of part of the season. Like if we're on a losing slump or some players are not playing any minutes, and seeing how they react and how their energy is, like you got to be the supporter there to provide to them, like, hey, we're going to make sure you're going to stay ready. And being able to stay ready is kind of like the routine driven process for these guys mentally. Like if they're out of it, we make sure they still buy in, and having the confidence to buy in is like the biggest thing. So players do know, like if there is any slump going on, there's always a circle around them that's off site, which is family and friends, managers and
Sure.
agents that have an influence. With us, it's like we don't know what you're talking about outside of it, but within this community you have with you every day, you have to trust what we're doing. And what we do trust with, you got to trust us with it, because we got experience, we got years of credibility. Like we know what you need, and just ride this wave. Everything is never going to be always even keel. Everything's a roller coaster with the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, just speaking on the roller coaster of the seasons, you got the summer league and you got rookies and sophomores. You are on the name, image, likeness NIL podcast, and it really has shifted in sports. But how have you built your own NIL as a performance coach? And what is one piece of advice you would give to young professionals trying to establish their brand in the NBA?
biggest thing is, which products and services are you going to use daily that you can trust, you know? And a lot of it does come down to, I'm never going to promote anything or be a part of anything that I don't believe in. I don't care how much money is involved. Like, I'm never going to put my money on something that I don't even drink every day, or something that I don't intake every day. Because there's a kid that's out there that's watching me, because be like, man, Haseeb, he drinks this, I'm gonna drink that. But if the product that I have is not what I'm about,
Right.
it's not gonna work for me. You know, I'm not influenced by money. I'm not influenced by hype. I'm more influenced about wellness and how much that's gonna do good for me. So most of the people that I know, they know I'm sponsored, or I have deals with Eternal Water and Garden of Life. Even have my own online store with UFOS recovery company.
What?
Yeah, you know that. And we got another shoe brand that I'm gonna put on at some point. But there's companies that I'm trusting because I know who works for them. I know how they move. The products are certified, or they've been reviewed in a way that's not, faulty ingredients and stuff like that. Everything's natural, and
Right.
it's good for the body. And even players can take it. I don't want to have a professional athlete contact me about a product that I'm using that they can't even use. So I'm trying to, like, even on social media when I'm posting stuff, I'll get guys that hit me back like, "Hey man, like, why you drink Eternal Water?" And then I'll give a small description about that. "Hey, why do you take Garden of Life?" It'd be like, "Hey, it's NSF certified. You can take it. There's no banned substance in the product." So like, there's always something that has a purpose behind why I'm behind it. And I think for anybody that's out there that wants to sign an NIL deal or some type of sponsorship or marketing deal with a company, yeah, I get it. You know, money is a factor in you making a decision, but also you want to live by a product that you use daily, you know,
Yes.
and you are actually a product of the product. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like where I stand by on that.
No, definitely. You have to be able to back the product, because if you're not consuming it, then it seems a little superficial, and you just want to come off as authentic as you can. It seems
Right.
like whenever I came into sports, and just to be completely honest, starting my NIL firm my junior year in college
Right.
and just getting into it, there's a lot of darkness that surrounds sports, just on the side of taking advantage of young players, or you've seen it all. So maybe what's some advice if someone's like navigating through, just the NBA or the draft process, or trying to find an agent? What is some qualities that they can look for that can maybe say, okay, maybe I need to reel it in, or maybe this is as good as it
Mhm.
seems?
I just think first things first is like a lot of kids are growing up. Even I grew up in a rough environment. I grew up in an area where, you know,
Where
things
did you
were.
grow up?
I grew up in the suburbs of Miami in near Sweetwater slash Fontainebleau.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when things got better with my family, I moved to Kendall, which I finished my high school career there. I started in that Sweetwater area of Miami.
Yep.
But that area where I was growing up, you know, I wouldn't say it was a bad area or the hood or you know the trenches as my boys call it. It was just an area that low income families grew up in. We had a public school system that I was involved heavily in a lot. Especially I still go back and give back to the community there. Um, but when you grow up in these environments, a lot of us are thirsty for financial security, right? And when kids are making decisions, I don't want them to make a decision with an agent or a manager or somebody that's driven by money. Money, if you know money's gonna come at some point, that shouldn't be your first influence. Because I think that's like the darkest part of this industry is people can easily influence each other with the
Dollar
dollar
sign.
bill,
Yep.
right? So I'm more about like how can I build a relationship with an agent or a manager or someone that is actually has real intentions for me because I could be a player in the NBA, and I've seen this happen where players get drafted, get sent to the G League, they're not doing well, then they're on the way out the G League, and then they're getting deals overseas, and things overseas are not working out, and then you find out at the end, like, man, my agent doesn't care about me no more. I was like, why is that? Like, oh, because once I got out the league, my agent stopped paying attention to me and started working on more time with the other guys.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, so you were driven by the influence of that agent trying to put you on because you was probably going to be a lottery pick or a first round pick.
Mm.
So guys are influenced by that as well, but it's not something that you should abide by. I think you making years of a relationship with somebody should be more authentic and sticking with that rather than getting on with someone just because they're trying to make a quick dollar out of you because it's a percentage thing too.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's kind of a cynical world, but if you can teach a young man or a young woman to stick out their hand
Mhm.
and introduce themselves and really kind of hold their own and kind of create that the NIL, the brand, with people always dialed into their phones and always on social media, you can either be a consumer or a producer.
Mhm.
And if you're doing too much consuming and producing, even on like a P&L, a profit and loss side, it's not going to work. You spend too much that you
Right.
don't, it just doesn't work.
Right.
So I think it's relationships are so important. I mean,
Everything I'm about is relationship driven. I think most of the people that I'm tied with or even have been mentored by is because of the relationship that we've built over the years, And I think it does. I'm not anybody that knows me how genuine I am when it comes to how I do things and how I move, and I don't want to make and I want to be the proper example of how things should happen. Last thing I want to do is have my name be stamped on something that I don't believe in or someone that I never trusted. So I have a very small circle and I've cut it down even more. Um, because you know what happens, man. Like you're in a situation that you could help so many people, but you can only help so much.
Yep.
So
Because
that's
I can't, like I always say to them, like, I can't want it more than you.
right,
So, like, if I want it more than you, we're not going to work out. It's
right.
like you got to go to work and I'm going to go to work, but we gotta, there's got to be a balance and a respect
Hmm.
that, I mean, I'm sure respect, it gets kind of built over time.
Right.
And with these guys coming in hot with all the NIL money, you kind of got to find that regulative side. I want to ask a question. So the Mavericks plan to put Cooper Flag in situations that are uncomfortable for him. So how do you design training scenarios that, get them out of their comfort zones and push them to like that next level, that next chapter for those players?
I think as easy as I can think of it is if I'm a player development coach or somebody that's in the realm of helping him out in that aspect, is randomizing situations in practice and seeing him fail, seeing him make mistakes, and then adjusting through that. Now, everything not just only has to be randomized, but it has to be realistically situational. So most players in the league, as much as they want to develop their game, are they developing in a situation that they're going to see consistently, or are they developing in a situation that they're gonna probably see more or less of? So I have this drill prophecy or drill thought process of like, I would like to work on 60 to 70% of what the player will commonly do in a game, because that's what they're comfortable with, just to start, the plan of progressing them. And then that 35, 40% of throwing them in situations that they might see in the game that they have to be ready for. So whether it's bad passes or getting a ball off a 50-50 ball and you got to, read and react through that. Like there's things that happen in games. I want to say it's hard to drill them, but you want to do your best to, simplify and, main thing, randomizing it, because the game is so random.
Yeah. So how do you balance, pushing them to grow, but protecting their confidence? Because I think confidence going into a game, right? If you put them in a bunch of scenarios that, they're out of their rhythm, they're not in their comfort zones, there's a balance to that. And so I want to see where you find that a happy medium.
I think it just comes down to the verbiage of how you talk to the player and how you translate the language. I think if I have a certain game plan about the game and I see the players' confidence go down, it's how you speak to them to not just bring them back, but just to like have that consistency of like, hey, it's okay to miss a couple shots in a row. You'll come back and you'll come back and be better. I mean, you can even use players as examples that have gone through situations where they have a terrible first half, an amazing second half. And
Kobe Bryant is one of them.
Kobe Bryant, yeah, sure. Even as a kid watching Dirk Nowitzki do that to us in the finals, and I was a Heat fan growing up, and Dirk Nowitzki would have a terrible first half, and the second half he just goes crazy and beats the Heat, wins the championship. You're just like, wow, like it was not about him missing those 5 or 6 shots, whatever it was, and then him coming back and closing the game out and takes that title from a Heat fan. You're just like, wow, that really happened. But that perspective kind of told you like, wow, as bad as that situation was for him, that was a great player that figured it out, because it wasn't about how many shots he's missed. He kept the confidence there. Somebody coach had told him something to keep that even keel.
Yeah.
In situations like that, even keel, having that other influence of somebody there, like, hey man, I'm there for you no matter what. Rather than, words are powerful, man. Like ask any player, like they would not want to have a coach. Like coaches should be able to give constructive criticism, which is fine. That's part of the growth of the athlete and the player. The hard part about it is when you feel insulted or you are being insulted, and that affects your thought process, and it ruins your confidence that way. Even not playing affects certain players a certain way. So I think it's just all about who the player is around. And I think for me, it's like to help someone's confidence in that sense is how I speak to them and what I'm speaking to them about. And am I having examples of that situation that they're in, whether it's a player that's gone through it or whether it's myself that has seen success from a certain situation. I try to amplify that as much as I can.
Yeah, definitely. You're like working on like 2 decades worth of like working in the NBA right now, which is like phenomenal, and just so proud of you. I know that doesn't mean much, but like you've been killing it, man. So when wins are scarce, the season is not falling the way they wanted it, how do you keep players like locked in and like motivated to like still become like the best versions of themselves?
As crazy as that sounds, being in this team environment, I mean, in the NBA, we had ever since I've been moved up, we haven't had a losing season. We only had a we were at 500 last year, so I can't say any. We haven't had anything less than that. In the G League, we only had one. Every year I've had a winning year, but that one year that it was up and about, and on the bad side was the COVID year when most of our players had COVID, and in the G League we had
The
about
roster was so
yeah, it
finicky.
was 20 different players that year, and it was just like hard to have consistency and flow of that philosophy. So that year was a good example of like how am I going to get players to buy in, and everything just became down. Everything just came down to purpose. Like what is your purpose of playing the game in the season, right? Now, if it's individually, if it's driven by individual goals, if it's driven by like, hey, this is all about me, I care about making it to the top. I don't care about anybody else. It's not gonna go far. So I think the conversation I would have with some guys would be, what have you done today to help the team out, not just yourself? And little by little, those are breadcrumbs over time that you got to add on for the season. Whether you make it to the playoffs or not, you just got to find ways to have players develop in a losing season, and that comes down to how can I improve myself in a team aspect. So then, if there's any intel that goes out to other teams, like, hey, even in a losing season, Grayson did a great job keeping guys in check. Grayson did a great job of being on time. He led an example as being a pro. So I'm using you as an example because most players, if it's a losing season, the season's over with, I'm good. I'm gonna just do what I need to do. But we still have to make sure people understand, like in the G League as well, like you're still hungry, man. Like you haven't set anything in stone. You haven't fed your family yet. Like let's do these other things that have the intangibles of yeah, and NBA teams will want to know about these intangibles as well.
No, absolutely. And there's been the Magic's rebrand. How do you feel about the Magic's rebrand? I think the logos look great. I think it's like really like a really a pivotal point, like a peaking point for the Magic, just to recognize kind of like what they have. And how have you felt about the rebrand?
I ain't gonna lie, I love the logo.
Fire.
It's a fire logo. I have some old Orlando Magic gear, and it was the logo from the '90s, with all it was like a few stars on the side of the ball. And
Yeah,
I missed that.
I think it's like Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, like that old look, and I think the fact that they brought it back, I think the fans wanted it too. I think it was something I read that the fans were like, "Hey, let's bring back the logo or something like that logo," and they did a great job. And I know who did it, and shout out to them on the business and marketing side of rebranding. And I think they did a great job, and I think it's the right time to do it, because from what it looks like, we have a good chance of being a great team this year.
No, absolutely. So you talked about coaching staff when you moved up. How has it been to see Sham God? Right? He's on staff now. He's an icon. I remember growing up seeing him, hoop mixtape and all of that. So how does he kind of translate, his knowledge? Brilliant guy, but how does he translate his knowledge, into an NBA locker room?
Yeah, it's a blessing to have a guy with that type of history and respect around the league to be on our staff. I haven't really had much of an opportunity to learn from him because it's just been so brand new and fresh. Just getting to know him has been cool because he's very welcoming. You could tell he's very knowledgeable. He'll break down some stuff in detail when you see some things in practice. I ain't gonna lie, I'm pretty excited to see what he's about and learn more about him, because that everybody knows his signature move. I've done it so many times growing up. Yeah, the sham guy. Everybody. And now you're with the guy working with him, which is crazy. So, and he has an influence with a lot of players. So it's not just about what he knows, it's like how much of an influence can we also have growing up. Because I feel like I'm still young in this industry.
You are.
like, yeah, and for example, like the first NBA player I trained, I was at the age of 21. That was at IMG, Tyrus Thomas.
Yeah.
And Coach Yusuf out there, he gave me a shot to help train him. And I was like, wow, I'm really training Tyrus Thomas as a 21-year-old.
Right.
And then now I'm 36. So 14, 15 years later, I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, like I've been at this for a while,
Yeah.
And it was never, now for me, it was never always about marketing, because on the business side, I had to figure out a way to market myself.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I think the authenticity of working with those type of players or working in this industry comes down to how good your work is, and that's kind of what led to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the circle you create, the impacts that you do early on with the early foundational structures. Like nobody could have said, "Hey, man, if you just do this IMG internship, you'll be at the Orlando coaching staff." You know, like that's nothing is promised, right?
That's a
Everything
crazy story too.
everything is calculated. But when I called you, I was like, "What's up, Coach Hex?" He's like, "Man, I ain't heard that in a while. Can you tell me?" He's like, "I'm not Coach Hex anymore." Can you tell me why? Where does Coach Hex come from?
So for those that know me, there's two nicknames I've had: is Coach Hex and Zebo. So Coach
Right.
Hex was later in my life. When I used to play, I wore a number 6, and wearing a number 6, one of my coaches, he didn't speak English pretty well, so I had to learn from him a different way. But the way he would call me was Hexagon, because I wore number 6.
Right.
So he would never say my name properly. He'll say Haseeb, Saab, whatever. He's like, I'm gonna just call you Hexagon. So I was like, all right, cool. I mean, if that's what gets your attention. And then Hexagon led to Hex, and he would keep calling me Hex, 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 come here. And some of the players that I was around, they started calling me Hex instead of my real name.
Sure.
And then when I got to IMG to do my internship, that was pretty much, I was done playing at the time. Everybody there was a few people there that knew me as Hex, and then it's just like, wow, this is gonna spread like wildfire. And then everybody that ever seen me at IMG knows me as Hex, And my name Zebo, that nickname came from my childhood in Miami. So a lot of the multicultural people that I was around, they would call me Hasebo or Sebo all the time, and then that just led to Zebo, and that kind of like took off on its own. And I'm just like, all right, if that's what people want to call me, that's cool. But I'd rather just stick to my real name, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So real ones know like my real name is where it's at, but the influence of the nickname just tells you the origin of where I was at that time.
Yeah, you're like, how long have you known him?
Yeah, exactly. That kind of goes back to that.
Yeah, so Mosley has been praised to be like a master motivator, and convincing people to buy in. And he calls playing defense a quote unquote great joy and fostering a family-like culture. As a performance coach, how do you align your training method with Mosley's motivational approach? With Magic's competitive identity?
Man, that's a tough one to think about because, ideally for those that don't know, I'm an assistant strength coach for the Magic, and my job is to assist the head and the directors as best as possible. So they have an idea of how to implement a program, how to implement a philosophy, and the culture around the part of developing the athlete foundationally. So whatever I get from them and the influence of Coach Mosley's motivation is really a factor in me growing in this space. So it's hard to say like, how much of an influence I've had. It's more of like how much of I've assisted to be the influence of the culture. You know what I mean? So I'm just a very minute part of the program, of the culture. Everybody else is such welcoming and giving them knowledge, and I'm just a sponge for it. I've always told people that I feel like I never know enough or I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And that thought process has brought me into situations where I can take what you taught me, take what this other guy taught me, or take this other coach, what he's taught me, put it together and have a refined product that's actually decent.
Yeah.
And players relate to coaches and staff that have not just played the game but understand it well. So I think one of the things that Coach Mosley and Coach Arnie and Coach Tador have done well was provide that to the athlete, is the basketball mindset. Even Coach Tador, he's also taught me a lot about Coach Tador. He's our head of strength and conditioning, and he's our director of performance actually for us.
Okay.
And he's taught me about 3-dimensional movement in different spaces of
put you on game.
Yeah, put me on game because he was teaching me stuff that I had to learn. And then Coach Arnie, he's also taught me everything that's fascia driven is going to relate to injury prevention, and there's a lot of technicalities with that I'm still learning that I wasn't taught in school. And I'm going back to reading. I brought my books here to keep
I saw that. They're over
Yeah, I was
there.
like, yeah, I got to keep on tap with, keeping myself fresh with knowledge. So, when the game evolves, performance and injury prevention evolves as well. So I think we have to stay on top of not just having the baseline foundation of knowledge, but is the culture that we're providing and establishing still helping the philosophy that we have and evolving that as well. So that's kind of like the give or take thing.
Yeah, definitely. So with it seems like, well, you're one, extremely humble, and I think the whole world and especially pro sports could use that, especially with great young teams like OKC and Orlando Magic. Like they really can have that spark, but keeping them grounded is like a whole other different equation. So how do you stay true to yourself in a competitive industry? Because I'd be remiss to say that maybe you've had to keep your head down whenever something else maybe was shiny in the rearview mirror or something like that. Can you give me an instant of when you're staying true to yourself in a competitive industry, and what's a moment where your authenticity has helped you connect with a player?
That's a great point and question as well, because there's been so many situations where if there's a certain type of movement pattern that I had to translate, can I show that and be an example of what we're trying to teach in our program? So some players I'll explain them a drill, and if they don't understand it entirely, then I would have to, show them visually. So most of the NBA guys I've been around, they're great visual learners. And some of the guys are so cognitively intact that, hey, I don't even have to show it. They already know what it is. So I think me being the example of an athlete, whether it's like even a player development situation, when I was working privately, where if I had to show a certain type of dribble pull up at a different angle, I can't just explain it because there's so much space and area that they have to cover. Like, how can I show that at which angle I'm talking about? So I think being an example of that has translated that real well. But then also, like in this industry, if you're not developing that part of your game as a coach to show what you're capable of doing, of what you're teaching, or being an example of it, some of the players are going to have a hard time buying in. Yeah. And they're going to be like, okay, this guy, if he can't show it to me, I can't do it, then I'm not going to do it. Yeah. You got to be very efficient and quick. You know what I mean? They don't got time to wait.
Yeah.
Hang around.
It's like, man, I just did a 3-hour workout, but like a lot of that is like so blocked and very intentional and everything like that. So, and performance coaching is as much a mental toughness game as it about physical skills. Can you share a story about a player that overcame, maybe a mental or maybe emotional obstacle that like a mental block? It's like, man, he just can't seem to go left and do this, but obviously there's
one player in the G League that I had, especially in the G League bubble, and he was a great example because he had a very up and down season, and he helped us win a championship that year in the G League in the bubble. And being in the bubble, for those that know,
you were in the bubble,
the G League bubble, which
still
was literally after the NBA bubble.
Yeah.
That experience itself was pretty challenging. I kind of took it to heart. Like, some people are like, oh my God, we're gonna be trapped in this small space. I was like, hey, look, as long as I am involved in the game of basketball in the bubble, I don't have no complaints.
I like that.
So I was even in a situation where, like, hey, I didn't take no video games with me. I was like, hey, let me take some books. Let me take some, let me take some stuff for me to, personally develop, because I felt like that was a perfect space for a couple months of just working on myself. Yeah. No family around. And I had just got married. And when I moved to the bubble, literally a month after I got married, we got into the bubble. So that, big ups to my wife on taking that.
Man, shout out wifey. Yeah, that's crazy.
But ideally leading to that bubble situation, you're around players that are also like going through the mental side of it too. Like, where are they mentally being trapped in a bubble? And this one player, he kind of was like up and down with the season, trying to make it, trying to find his way within the system. He had an injury or two, I can't recall, and we had to help him get back. And then when it came time for the playoffs, now in the bubble, in the G League, the situation was kind of different. It was a winner go home every round, kind of like the NFL. Yeah. So now the G League, G League originally had a thing where it's like, hey, it's a best of 3 series in the finals.
Yeah.
Everything before that is a winner go home. So we had a winner go home situation in the playoffs all the way through the championship. And this player, he stuck through it. I taught him how to really lock in spiritually as well, because that was one component that kind of helped him fight through the battle. Because everything that was so mental, there's certain things you can't control. And I think if you add God into the picture, for most of these guys, they figure that part out and helped us win. You know what I mean?
No, I can totally get that. If I had to rely on myself every single time, I think I'd fail. When I rely on God every time, I always win. Even when like the storm gets messy. So, as a performance coach, you're helping players build their legacy in the NBA. What is one goal that you're chasing, and what do you want to be remembered in the NBA?
To be honest, one goal that I am chasing is reliving that moment of winning a championship. I think what we all thrive for is those moments where all the hard work you put in, it just pays off, because it's not just the component of winning, it's the component of you were able to execute what you believed in and it works. So I can say that I'll never say that I know everything. I'll never say that I have the best drills in the world. Like, I'm still learning and establishing and polishing that. I just think that there's certain ways of applying certain things, and winning that time really taught me, like, wow, like, it's not just me, the head coach, assistant coach, the performance staff, the medical staff. We did this together. Whatever we did, it worked.
Yeah. And
that's the most gratifying feeling. And I think I want to relive that moment again in the NBA, where I can say, like, wow, like, we're hoisting an NBA trophy right now. Like, this is crazy. Like, all the hard work we did during the season, it paid off. What I was taught, what I was establishing, what I was making mistakes on, what I was excelling on, all that stuff was just breadcrumbs to the loaf. And that's kind of what I thrive for, trying to achieve, is being known not just as a winner, being known as someone that really believed in what he knew and still continues to learn and applying it at a high level, you know? So.
Well, you're working with one of the youngest NBA teams currently right now. You got a 22-year-old that is absolutely killing it. Rookie honors, all-star. How do you kind of navigate that? Because I'm sure, every 22-year-old obviously doesn't get to be the face of a franchise or, be a pillar in the franchise. So how do you guys mitigate that to, like, really make, Banchero like the best he can be?
I think the biggest part is keeping the main thing. I mean, Banchero doesn't have a lot of negative vibes. He's got good people around him. He's such a good dude. He's such a great kid. My first influence of meeting him, he's like, hey, I want to get right to it, and his first year in the league, I actually worked with him in summer league when he got drafted. That was like my first influence of getting to know him and being around him. And then, I was back in the G League once the season started, and then seeing him grow as a rookie at that time from a distance not too far away, I was like, wow, the kid really has heart, just like he spoke about in the summer. And then the coaches that are around him are doing such a great job to put him in position to succeed. So it's not really like me having an influence on him. It's just me witnessing the influence of others around him that have impacted his game. And that's kind of helping me in a sense, because I don't really have much of a say on, how he's going to do things or when and where, but it's more about, like, the coaches, the medical staff, the performance staff, and the coaching staff have done such a great and elite job with him that they're seeing the result of his progress.
Fruits
over
of the
time.
labor.
Fruits of the labor, exactly. You couldn't say it any better. That's kind of paying off right now. So I think for him, it's like he's locked in. He sees success around the league, and I'm sure he's seeing other guys that he knows he's better than making their ways to win. And I know he's thirsty right now. So, and I'm glad to be just a part of the journey.
Yeah, to be a part of a franchise that drafted guys like Shaq, and you got Dwight Howard, big names, and then you got, like, this rebrand, and things are really coming around the corner. Where do you, like, the NBA championship is the number one goal. You say the medical staff, the coaching staff, assistant coaches, all of that is so important. When have you seen like fan interaction boost like trajectories like for the season? Like, can fans like interact with players in a way that like pushes it to the next level?
Oh yeah, I think one thing I love about being in Orlando is like the fan base there is very authentic. Very authentic. There's no like
It's a basketball state.
it's a basketball, yeah. Like they're and the coach. I mean, growing up in Miami, not to knock on the culture down there, but I figured like leaving Miami and going to Orlando, I just see like because there's no other pro sport team there aside from the new soccer team they have.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
there's no NFL team. There's no baseball team. There's a Solar Bears hockey team, which is I think it's a minor league there.
Yep.
But we're really the biggest pro sport team in the city of Orlando.
Yeah.
So that's all they have to root for.
Yeah.
To some degree, kind of like how the Spurs are. San Antonio doesn't have another sports team. So if you think about it, like that's kind of
It's like Alabama football.
yeah, like culturally that's who you are.
Yeah,
and when
yeah,
you're winning, everybody is there, but even when we're losing, everybody's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So kind of having that support and then also having a culture where that whole vibe of play the song thing that's happening is cool to see because the fans are about it. Like you could be in a draft, you could be at the NBA draft and Orlando Magic select so and so, and you hear somebody in the back, yo, play the song. Like that's dope. You know what I mean? Like, so the culture is around that, you know, and it's authentic because you don't gotta fake it.
Right.
So
It's real.
people have been there from the jump since 89, 88 when they started to now, and it's like seeing the progress. I mean, they've been to the finals twice, and they went against great teams, but now we're in a situation where it's like we got a lit group of young stars. Like, why not make something out of it? And I think the city's excited. And I even got my own family members that are around me that have trumped the, hey, let me not root for the Heat no more. Let me hop on the Magic. I got my niece back home. She's the biggest Magic fan because she sees me involved because that's the culture that she grew up on. So she trusts that more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely feel like the city's on fire. I gotta get out to see a game next season.
Oh, energy's impeccable. Like
I've never been to an Orlando
amazing.
Magic game.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'll get you some tickets, bro.
Yeah, dude. Shoot. I just want to be like, what's up, and feel the energy. I kind of want to make a switch. It seems like you lean on faith a lot.
Yes.
It seems like God has a pivotal role in your life, and I'm a God-fearing man, and I'm a believer. When I think as a young man, like you go through seasons of life where like you could feel like you're on fire for God, and then like you go away and you come back. So like, where's a moment where you've kind of been like, a lesson learned through him?
There was a point in my life where I had faith be a small part of my life and my work and my mindset as a big part of my life. And it took me a while to figure that part out because I didn't see success in those phases. I saw more of a growing phase, Faith was such a big part of my life later on because the more I failed, the more I realized I can't control the outcome of how and why I failed, right? So I think faith has always been a thought process of that thing where that quote they say, hey, you can only control what you can control.
Yep.
Everything outside of that, I was like, that leap of faith, hey, God, you take the wheel.
Yeah.
And not only God took the wheel, he took the pedal, he took the car, he took the house, he took every energy I had around me and just put that into a perspective of having me flourish in my environment. So there's been dark times in my life. People close to me knew where that phase was. And once I started to, let me get back to my roots and my faith and what my parents lead me on. And that's why I give credit to my parents is, as much success that I was not seeing, they still always reminded me about it. And even when I still see success, I still hear that same language of keeping God first. And there's been so many moments in my life where, if I didn't put God first, I would fear something would happen to me that I didn't want to happen.
Yeah.
So
I just gotta go. I gotta take this leap.
Yeah, and I'm not a guy that believes in luck.
Hell no.
Per se.
I work too hard for luck. Is what I say.
It's like with me, luck is more of like okay, you're just relying on a probability. And probability to me is a deficiency of what faith is.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let me put myself in the faith perspective. Like, let me God will whatever's gonna happen.
And it's crazy kind of like how your mind like almost is able to relax
Right.
and kind of like really be in the moment, because when you're not, it's like you're anxious, you don't sleep right. It's like I can't even
You've been
breathe
through the
right.
trenches with me with that, then, man.
You can't
Yeah.
even breathe right. Well, it's just like you start something like simply as like the NIL firm, and like my first deal, I lost more money than I ever had, and it's like, okay, I can either stop or keep going, and it's like multiple things, you know. Even with my boy Anthony, who's the guy behind the camera, and you know, he's seen it. He's seen people being like, no, you need to leave. He's seen me get shut down, like on camera. Like there's literal footage of me bailing. It's like, it's not hearsay. Like we can run that back. And I think my team really believes in me. You kind of get people behind you because they just see like you're fired up and you're ready to go.
Everything nowadays is faith driven. You know, I try to remind my family with that, and the people that I'm around, is just like how much of faith has an influence. You know, whatever you believe in, whatever your religion is, you know, let's coexist with our faith. Let's coexist with our spirit, and just try to be good people. And I think that's a hard part of people nowadays, is like everybody's judging each other for race and color and religion. You know, let's
put that aside.
Yeah, let's put that aside. Let's focus on coexisting as human beings, and let our faith be something that is so sacred and private. Like, keep that to yourself.
Yes.
Like, not everybody should know about how you pray or how you do things.
Or when you pray. You don't have to post every time you pray. Just like I don't post every time I'm in the gym.
Yeah, like it's not something that, it should be something sacred.
Praying is not a flex.
Yeah, it's not a facade. Like, it's something that you should keep private and sacred to yourself. And there's been times where I'll try to remind people how much of God has an influence on myself and my path. Because I want to think the way I got into the NBA it really wasn't me, to be honest. I was just a product of my faith that got me into it. And the way I got into it was really God driven, to be honest.
No, definitely. And even talking back to like getting literally married and then like going into the NBA bubble, like right after your wedding, looking back, what's like one sacrifice you made to pursue your NBA career?
I had to sacrifice
your time, obviously.
Yeah. I think the other part was sacrificing opportunities that would keep myself financially stable, because I believed in the dream that was going to happen at some point, and only I saw it, nobody else around me. Some people were there to help support me along the way, because I had some mental droughts and you know, dark phases, and you know, I have my best friends that were around that kind of helped me through it. But ideally, it was the whole part of like, hey, should I quit my dream and get a regular 9-to-5 and work in a situation where I know what I'm getting every 2 weeks, or I know like, hey, I'm settling on this opportunity because I need to provide for my family. I was blessed enough to pray enough to remind my parents and have them believe that, hey, like, this is all going to pay off. Like, I'm 36 now. I got into the NBA just 2 years ago when I was about 33, 34. But I've been grinding in this industry since I was 21. So nobody can tell you that it's going to happen in a year. It can happen to you in 2 years.
And for some people it did.
And some people it did, you know, because situationally everybody's different.
Yeah,
you know?
But everybody's like journey is like different. I think that's like what these like, I'm young, but like these young guys, I'm like, dude, like you're not going to have the same journey as Cooper Flag or Banchero. Like you're not going to have that.
Hey,
like,
the biggest thing I also live by is comparison is a thief of joy. That's a quote that I've lived on for a while. Like, I can't compare myself to another coach or another, even in this industry, everybody's competing as a trainer and everybody's being compared to another person. I'm just like, good, kudos to him. Like, if he's successful, good for him. That's his journey. He's thriving in it. we should celebrate that.
Yeah, I'm here
You know
to
what I mean?
grow the league. I'm not here to like because
Like I'm not trying to be a conflict of the influence of you're having in the industry, because at the end of the day, if it's something positive, push it. I'd rather have somebody be the best that they can be in that industry than be in the street selling drugs and being best at that. You know, like there's an ego involved in some people, and that ego kind of gets carried away, and that's not God driven. You know what I mean? When your ego's involved, God's gonna look at you at some point and be like, "Hey, that's not what I created you for."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So coming from you came from immigrant parents, right? How does that perspective kind of change you to see kind of like the sacrifice that they did, so like you felt that you had to like get it, and then not having like a
So my parents, where they're from, when they migrated here, just like how any normal immigrant family would come to America, everybody has a dream, everybody has a purpose, better lifestyle, better future. The probability of my parents making it gave me enough belief that whatever mindset I have and whatever I believe in, I'm gonna be able to make it. So that's why the failures that my mom and dad went through and the struggle financially that they had to go through taught me that they're still thriving even after the struggle, because they had faith on their hands. Like if my mom or dad can't provide me with, a hamburger, they would still be able to provide me with a loaf of bread. You know what I mean? So like you always think about prospectively, like they never showed me that they were struggling. I found out later, like, wow, like you guys are really going through it. Like, yeah, we made sure that you never saw none of that. And I was like, oh, that makes sense, because last thing I need is me being youthful and going through the struggle that my parents are going through and having that dictate my future outside of the home, and let that be a factor in me making my decisions. So, my parents, they were always strict on, hey, get a degree, get educated, become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, financial advisor. I thought about that. I even got into, there was a school, Miami Coral Park Senior High, where I started my high school at. They had an engineering program, and I was part of the engineering program because I was like, hey, I like engineering, biomedical engineering, mechanical engineering. That was something that I kind of got influenced in, and that kind of was like the starting point. But I felt like that wasn't for me. I just did that because I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe that might make my parents happy that I find some interest in engineering. And that magnet program they had taught me a lot, but it also taught me that basketball was where my heart was. So I had to find a way to stick with it. And my parents, as much as they wanted me to be involved in the academic side, I had to balance that and still remind them, like, hey, I have a dream of being involved in this industry, and I know I'm gonna make it. And here I am today, show it to them.
When was your dream to be a part of the NBA? On maybe a coaching standpoint, I feel like as a player, that's always the end goal.
Oh man, it was at IMG.
Yeah.
Right when the NBA players started telling me that my drills were good.
You're like, you can't tell me anything.
Like, that's a start. And I was young, 21, 22 years old. Like I was still a hooper at the time.
Yeah.
And some of them would see me hoop and like, wow, this kid could really go after it, even though you would look at me as a
trainer,
light-skinned brown kid that can't hoop, and I just made it work. It's just like, okay, how'd you know that? Like, how did you read this? How was that read? And some of the players now are seeing the influence of my past be a product of their growth. And, that's when I felt like when I was around that young age, I was like, you know what? I could really do this. If I don't make it, at least I know I tried. Yeah. So, and I just stuck it out, man. I just stuck it out. I just never, I think the people that really make it to whatever goal they have, whether it's the NBA, NBA is a trajectory everybody has in mind, but you don't know if God has that plan for you.
Right.
My goal was like, hey, I'm gonna put that on the pedestal, and if God leads me to it, I'm gonna do it the right way. And my thing was like, failure was a part of it, but also that, never lose doubt. Never have doubt. You know what I mean? Everything was just belief driven.
No, definitely. I remember. I wasn't the best at IMG, but you would always like play them. You would always play like people towards like the end of camp, like the campers would go through. Bro, I remember you were just like like you were just
I was
you were
bucking.
just greening it, and I was like, you were farting, you know, you were just like, you would talk trash, like respectfully so, like you would talk trash, try to get like the best out of somebody, bro.
Right.
And, you know,
That's how I play.
yeah, like, but I'm like freshmen in high school, he was burning these fools. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's,
I'm like, these dudes are. I was like, Coach Hex is sending these kids away with heartbreak, bro. He worked with them all week or even 2 weeks, and now he's like, all right, I'm gonna send you home, but I'm about to hit you with a couple of these.
Yeah, you have to be the example, man. And I think basketball was one component. Whenever I stepped in between the lines, I couldn't show any fear.
Yeah.
So fear was one component that any basketball player that defends you or plays against you will catch that quick.
Yeah.
So I had to be an example of having not just cockiness, but just confidence, you know?
Love that.
And even if I feel like I have a bad day, you'll never see it from me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Poker face.
Yeah, poker face. Like, miss 1 or 2 shots or I turn the ball over, I'm still going to lock you up. I feel like that's one part of my game that I've really got better at over time was defending. Because, you know, I was able to, you know, force players in a direction that they wouldn't think I would force them to and contest it or put them in positions that they're uncomfortable. So as a player, you see that and then you're just like, hey, maybe I should defend players in a workout that way so then they can react like that in the game and it just all translates fluidly.
Yeah, you're talking about defense. Like we were watching the summer league. You just realize how like gritty these dudes are. All young.
They're hungry, man. They're hungry.
They're crazy hungry.
They got a family to feed. A lot of those guys are fighting for a contract. A lot of those guys are trying to take someone else's money. You know, take someone else's
money on the ground, go pick it up.
Yeah, like it's opportunity now, man. Like all those guys that are in summer league right now, like they made it this far. They have a dream to chase, and it's just everything's opportunity driven.
Haseeb, you got to tell me the story about when you got a call from the NBA.
Man, that has a foundational story behind it. There was a time I was working with Jay Crowder privately, and I was blessed to work with him. And he was actually traded from Boston to Cleveland, and I was helping him move into his new home at the time. And then randomly, I was in this garage opening boxes, helping him out, and then I get a call from Bill Burgos, which is one of my mentors in the NBA. Now, going back to Bill Burgos as a mentor, when I was in college at UCF, the NBA had a lockout in 2011, and that lockout was, you know, that fall part of the season.
I remember, man.
Yeah, so you know, coaches were not working. So at that time, my student advisor, she told me to take strength and conditioning as a class. So I was like, all right, I'll take the class. Still a physiology major. Sure. So I was like, hey, let me just take that class now. So I took it in fall, and I'm walking into syllabus day, and the professor is Coach Burgos. Like he was the head strength coach for the New York Knicks prior. Then he was transitioning to Orlando Magic, or I think he was already there. And I was like, wow, this guy works in the NBA. He's my professor. Well, I got to connect with him.
Yeah.
So the whole semester, I just tapped into being the best student I can be. Forward 5, 6 years later, you know, every year I stayed in touch with him. I updated him with what was going on, even at IMG, all the players I worked with. And there was a time that Vanderbilt was featured on a magazine.
Well, he was MVP.
MVP of I forgot what it was. It was
the Lakers. No.
No. He won the summer league with the Lakers at the time, and that's when Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball.
Do you remember his jersey was a little messed up?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a throwback. You see, you reminded me on that one. So that point where when I was still working with Vanderbilt and Jay Crowder at that time, years after I still knew Coach Burgos. So a couple years into it, when ESPN and Undisputed, they got together. Undefeated, actually. It was not Undisputed. It was Undefeated. That was like part of ESPN.
Yeah.
They came and interviewed Vander, and they had me feature as well in the article about my workouts with him, what was my routine, stuff like that. Sure. So that article came out the summer that I was with Jay Crowder when he got traded, right?
Okay.
So what happened was, and when that article came out, it's on ESPN. You can Google it. It's still out there. If anybody wants validation, we'll pull it up. So you'll see a picture of me in there working them out, where this and that. So then I sent that article to Coach Burgos, and I was like, "Yo, Coach, like this is one of my articles that I got featured on. Thank you for all your help and your mentorship, like guiding me through strength and conditioning.
Giving his flowers.
Yeah. I'm like, yo, like what you taught me, I implemented and it's working. And then that one time, like I said, you know, when I was with Jay Crowder at his garage in Cleveland, this was after I sent that article prior. He calls me, Coach Burgos calls me. He's like, hey, Haseeb, man, how you doing? I was like, hey, what's up, Coach? It's a pleasure to meet you. He's like, hey, I love the article you sent. You know, I just want to tell you that the Orlando Magic, are, you know, starting up a G League team. And I was like, G League? At the time, it was development league. Before that. It was a G
before
League.
the sponsorship
Before
of Gatorade.
The sponsorship of Gatorade. So to invest in the D League, it was now becoming Gatorade dominant, right? So that was the first influence of the G League that Orlando Magic had invested in. And he was like, hey, would you be interested in being the head strength coach for our G League team? I was like, what? Without a doubt, you know, like,
yeah.
So I had to process what he was saying first because it hadn't hit me, it hadn't registered because it was like the call of the life, like the call of your lifetime.
Yep.
So
in a garage,
I was like, yeah, in a garage, and he was like, hey, Coach, yeah, I'm definitely interested. Like, what do you need me to do? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna talk to talk to our coach, talk to our management, and we'll go from there. Figure out the interview process, send your resume in, whatever. I did all that, and then after I got off the call, I went to Jay Crowder. I was like, yo, Jay, like, the Magic just called me, man. Like, they want me to be the head guy in the G League. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, for real. Like, you better take that. And I was like, yeah, man, like, hard work paying off. And that was like going on year 4 or year 3 working with him. So I knew like I was ready for it because I already tapped in relationship-wise with a lot of players while I was working with him. So I knew that moment was there. So when I got the interview, I got the job. Then I started working with him. I started working with the team. And then what's crazy was my first ever NBA game that I worked as a G League coach was against the Miami Heat, and that was like an unreal moment because I was standing because the Heat played in Orlando that preseason game, and I think Hassan Whiteside was on the team at the time. That's how far back I'll go back with it. And I'm standing at half court, and I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I'm on an NBA floor. My home team is playing against me, and I'm on the Magic. Like, it was like that's like a crazy moment.
Wow, full circle.
Yeah, there's a full circle moment. And you know, DJ Augustine, Elfrid Payton, those were the 2 guards that Coach Burgos gave me the opportunity to warm up and, you know, help out with on the court. So, and then now, like, every time I'm at half court, I'm meeting players on the other side that I've worked with. And it's crazy, like, when Jay Crowder sees me on the other side, or, you know, other players that see me on the other side, even Robert Covington, my first year, he sees me on the other side. It's like, yo, this is crazy. You was at IMG, you was with me privately, like, things worked out. So that's how I kind of got in, was from that. Shout out to that student advisor. Like, she gave me that class to take. And if there was no NBA lockout, and if there was no NBA strength coach as my professor, I don't know how far I would have gone into this industry. So, you know, kudos to that situation.
That's crazy. Like, putting on game. During that time, whenever, you know, you're like in your first kind of like NBA or G League moment, like, do you remember anything from the game that sticks out, or like what it made you feel to kind of like walk out and be on court and just kind of living, you know, what your dream was at that time? Because like right now I'm living my dream.
It just reminded me about you know, not just as a fan that you see the game from far away, but also about like when you see the game up close. That's not just entertaining, but conceptually you understand like how players move in, how players are actually putting the effort in. There's a communication level involved that you don't hear on TV. You always hear the commentators, but you don't read certain pick and roll. You don't hear how they're reading a pick and roll. You don't hear them yelling
the angle,
low. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't hear like you can't hear them calling, "Hey, low man." Like, you don't hear those things, right? So the communication part was a big wake up. Like, wow, watching competitive basketball at the NBA level courtside, because I've never sat courtside to watch a game.
Yeah,
so working. One day we'll see what's up.
One day we'll do it.
One day we'll see what's up. So watching it close to courtside and witnessing energy, competitiveness, communication, effort, all that stuff was just like, I was like, wow, like this is why it's the NBA, you know? So, and seeing the best players in the world do it was amazing, you know?
So who's one of like the best communicators in the NBA on floor?
From what I've seen,
not from Orlando, like from
other
when you
teams?
compete. Yeah. And then you can do the Orlando.
Man, it's like a few dudes for sure. Definitely LeBron. When you see him out there trying to navigate,
He's loud.
He's loud. He
You
makes
can
his
actually
voice
hear.
known.
I've like gotten pretty close, and you can hear him. Like,
yeah. And then another guy would be Chris Paul. Like Chris Paul would
both 21-year vets.
Yeah, man. Like what he's done on the court. I'm a big Chris Paul fan because he was my height. He's my height doing what he does on the floor. It's like it's crazy. I'm like, yo, like I want to know what he does, and he was a big influence in my philosophy as well as far as basketball, and seeing those guys, how they communicate, how they make reads, how they set their teammates up, and they're just simplifying the game for other teammates, everybody else, and that's what you want to see. You don't want to see a guy that complicates it for everybody. But seeing their voice and how vocal they are, not just to their own teammates, but to the competition, the referees, the coaches, there's components involved. And then when you see them talk trash or hear trash talk from a fan, they're still blocking that out or responding and not letting that affect them. So that's cool to see, the confidence and swagger of implementing what the game plan is, but also implementing like, hey, no matter what you do, you can't stop what I have in mind.
Yeah, I think, like the really elite players can give you like, there's like 10 different versions of themselves on the court. Like let's do LeBron because it's easy. Like you're like, Bron, why are you not shooting the ball? He's like facilitate. He's like Magic Johnson out there just dishing it out. And you're like, why isn't he shooting? And then he'll slowly ramp it up. You'll slowly see the page turn. And just like a fan of the game, you just love to see how a player reacts to what they're given. And just trying to relate the basketball world to maybe some viewers who don't watch the NBA or things like that. How have you used basketball as like a vessel to get over things personally for yourself?
I think it just comes down to what you're dealing with mentally. There's a lot of, basketball is a sport that can relieve stress. People treat it like it's some people's music. Like how are you using basketball as a way to not just encourage growth mentally, but how is it being a peace of mind in your life? And that's kind of like the one component that the game of basketball has done for me. I can't speak for others, but ideally for me, I know like why am I involved in this game is because the stress, the rigors of life, and the tribulations you go through. Basketball was one thing that anytime I stepped on the court as a coach or as a player, I've always felt that ease. I've always felt that peace, and it kind of put me in a position where it's just like maybe my purpose is to be in between the lines of the sideline. So that's kind of where it was at.
Have you been able to like meet your people call it the GOAT or like who you really like looked up to, or like, oh man, you made me a fan of the game type thing? Like, I think if I were to meet, Allen Iverson or someone like that.
That's crazy you mentioned him. So there's two players I've always wanted to meet. Allen Iverson's one of them. I read his book called Only the Strong Survive. Some people back home know that was one book I was reading and I was really fond of it.
Yeah.
Allen Iverson was one player that was also my height, my weight, and his style of play, his swagger. I was just like, bro, this guy is amazing what he's doing against guys so much bigger and taller than him. So I've always tried to model my game around him. The other guy is Steve Nash. Steve Nash was another IQ-driven type player that didn't have all the athleticism, but his athleticism was different. He had agility. He had first-step speed.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always looked at like, wow, like those guys were some people that I would be wishing to meet in person. Haven't met Iverson yet. Haven't met Steve Nash yet. Even another guy that had an influence in me was not just, I grew up around when Jordan was playing.
Sure.
But Kobe was a big influence in the older age of my teenage years, and I've always wanted to meet Kobe.
Yeah.
And rest in peace to him when he passed. Everybody that grew up him as an influence, it hit him hard. But
I remember where I was.
Yeah, everybody remembers. That was the one thing in history where it's just like, where were you when this happened?
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean? Yeah.
So where were you at when that happened?
Dude, I went to school at Ole Miss, University of Mississippi.
Right.
So I was at my house and I saw the TMZ thing come and I was like, that's
was fake.
That's BS. So I was like, and then Twitter at the time started just rolling. I was like,
shit, it got real.
Bro, ain't no way. Ain't no way, bro. I remember like driving in my car and like having to pull over and just crying. Like I was like, dude, I didn't even like. I was like, bro, never did I think I'd cry over like an NBA player that I've never met in my entire life.
Same. But I reflect on that part too.
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about Kobe. I got to bring it up. I got to like big Kobe fan. I actually got it in 2020. This is actually a tattoo that I got.
Oh wow.
Of Kobe's. No, that's pull amazing. It up here. Yeah, dude. A big. Everyone's like, "Are you a? Look at
this. Oh yeah, sorry. Go back.
It's all good.
Look at this, y'all. Hold on, let me get this down.
Yeah, it's crazy. We'll pop it up. Okay, fun fact. I actually went to the NBA Finals when the Mavericks played against Boston. And the day before, I was at an A&M game, and Alex Caruso was there. And so I met Alex Caruso, and I was like, yo, what's up? And just like, hey, man. And then he had just been traded to the Thunder at the time. But so he was like fresh off the Laker roster. And I showed him my tattoo. He's like, no way. Takes a picture of it, and he posted on his story.
No way.
So, dude, they thought it was his leg. So then it went viral that Alex Caruso gets a Kobe Bryant tattoo of like the championship trophy.
Wow, that was yours.
And bro, I mean, it's like if Michael Jackson told you I could sing, like, like you telling me my thigh looks like an NBA player's thigh? I don't,
it makes sense.
No, not at all. Yeah. But it's like, because I was telling him, I was like, dude, you got to post it. He's like, no, I'm not posting it, blah, blah, blah. And like, that's why, you just never know. ESPN posted it. Everything.
It was like that?
It was
I did
mega.
Not know this.
Yes, bro. I'll bring it up. I mean, I remember I was flying, and then people were like DMing me like all the ESPN stuff, and I love Alex Caruso for that.
Oh my god,
dude, Alex Caruso's a baller, man. He's young, dude.
He can hoop.
Definitely can hoop.
Two-way player, man.
Yeah,
plays both sides of the ball real well.
Man, I mean, just even it always seems like Lakers like always do some like late weird drafts or like the Dalton Connects of the world or whatever. Do you guys like does the Magic have like teams that you guys circle and you're like, hey, we gotta beat this team or anything?
I mean, everything. I think for us, from where I've been at now in the NBA in the past couple of years, I think we circle everybody at this point. We don't care. That. We don't care about our divisional rival, Eastern Conference. Now it's like, who we got today, bro? Like, oh, we got Charlotte, boom, circle them. Oh, we got Minnesota, boom.
How is it playing against LaMelo?
He's fun to watch, man.
He's crazy. He's like very nonchalant.
Sporadic. His confidence is crazy. Like it's hard to defend players in this game when their confidence is like that and you can't detour them off a little bit. You can only be physical or you can have a game plan, but like a guy like him that puts up 7 to 10 threes a game, like he's just letting it fly. He's letting it fly. That just tells you like, I'm gonna let this rip. You can stop it or not, but I'm gonna let it rip. He's one of those entertaining players in the league. I think if things work out for him there, they gotta, aside from us trying to kick their ass, like they got a bright future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know. You're trying not to give too many flowers because
I'm competitive.
Yeah, good. No, that's the way you want to be.
Right.
So who would you say is like? Obviously, you have a whole roster of competitive people. Roster aside, on staff, who's like one of the most competitive people? Like, if they're gonna like, if you're like shooting a basket, they're gonna try to like shoot it further than you. If they're like, video games or even maybe poker or whatever, you just
competitively. I think
not even just basketball.
Yeah. Everybody has their own way of doing it. I think one guy that just pops and kind of people see is Jalen Suggs.
Yeah.
He's very competitive on a lot of things. He's competitive in chess.
He plays chess?
Yeah. You'll be surprised. Like I have this thing where I leave a chessboard out in our dining hall in away games and just try to see who plays chess. Like trying to have some team activity to be done. and him, Mo Wagner, a couple of the guys, they play chess and they play on their phone too. So they have the app and they play chess against each other. And he's very competitive in that. You know, everybody on the team is competitive in their own way on different things that's off the court. Like even my guy Wendell, man, like he has customized shoes that are Paul George's with a Uno logo on it.
Yeah.
So he's competitive in Uno. So when we play Uno, he's very like tapped into Uno. So like everybody has like something they're competitive at, you know, even if it's video games, right? Like, you know, there was a time we were stuck in Cleveland this past season because of, I think it was the plane being delayed, and we stayed back and in the locker room we're playing golf on Nintendo Switch.
Oh, PGA tour?
Yeah. So one of us are playing on playing a game of Uno. So like, it was just competitive. Like everybody was just tapped in. So it was cool to see like that part of the guys come out. So, and Coach has different ways of, you know, implementing competitiveness on the court, but off the court, you know, we as a staff, even Coach Arnie and Coach Tador Pandolf, they do some competitive stuff in the weight room sometimes where the challenges are mentally or physically, and it's cool to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You said chess, so like nobody knows this. I used to be nationally ranked in chess. I was like, I did not play. No girls.
We might need to tap into.
I'm not. No, I think 8th grade Grayson could probably beat anybody. You know, that's just kind of like
The thought process.
I can't.
I mean, you know.
I mean, I'm not locked in as I used to be. I used to be thinking like 10 to 12 moves ahead, like way. I really thought I was gonna be like,
man, I gotta get it. You gotta train me on that, man. So
dude, hey, you know, it's about how many moves you can kind of remember ahead of time and strategize. I've always been.
That's how the game is too.
Yeah.
You know? So that's why chess should be a big part of the mental routine for a few guys. Whether it's weekly, monthly, it's just something to implement that. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you are as good as much as you practice and kind of, you know, and consume yourself around that. But I want to leave, you know, this time to say kind of like, why my podcast? Why did you want to come on the NIL podcast? You know, what was your draw to that?
I think the biggest draw was your energy, man. Like, you're a good dude. Like, after knowing you for so long and then just re-tapping into seeing what you're doing, like, everybody keeps up with each other nowadays through social media. So seeing your growth and what you've been on, I think is a big part of, like, me trusting myself to be interviewed in a situation where it's just like, hey, no matter what you and I have, we can build off of this, you know. Maybe have a part 2 and then just add on new things, you know. Like, I think having a relationship with someone that knows my past as well was a big part of where I'm at. Like, I'm not just gonna go and podcast with somebody that's big time. Like, I want to, like, you hit me up about it. I was like, hey, it's a great opportunity to not just help myself, but help you out. You know what I mean? So I thought it was a big piece and big component of being a part of this podcast.
No, definitely. And so we actually try to connect during the NBA Combine. So like we've been trying. So we're now like finally
schedule
here.
has been crazy, man.
Anything that is tough is worthwhile doing. So when it's easy, look around and kind of check yourself.
100%.
Because like when life gets easy, I start getting real like happy. I'm sure happy for a little bit, but I'm like, ooh, what's gonna come next? Because I know something's gonna try to knock me down or whatever. But is there I just want to give you this time to share and just like what you got coming, what you got going, kind of like what's going on for you, man.
It's a lot going on. I think right now just trying to take it day by day, be the best I can in Summer League, provide the best resource of not just being a coach, but a mentor to the guys every day. That's going to go on until the next week and a half. And then just trying to be more of a family man, be a better husband, be a better dad. You know, I just became a girl dad recently.
Wow.
My daughter's she's a year and a couple months. So adjusting to that lifestyle has been very important. And it's crazy how much of an influence I see players have and how they raise their kids and how coaches raise their kids, because we're all in the same industry. We travel together. So a lot of our wives and a lot of our kids are left back. So I've always, you know, coaches know this, players know this, like, hey, how do you guys, you know, handle your relationship? How do you handle your stuff at home? How do you balance your lifestyle? So a lot of the coaches gave me good advice on how to deal with it as a coach. And then, you know, if you do plan to have more kids and how you adjust to this, because this lifestyle is not for everybody. You know, it's nonstop. There's, you know, ask my wife, we don't have PTOs. We don't have a weekend. Like, sometimes a Wednesday and a Thursday is a Saturday, Sunday for me. You know what I mean? Depending on how the schedule is. Sometimes Monday is a Sunday for me. Like everybody knows working in the NBA, there's literally no days off, especially if you're performance or basketball or medical or your coach or even on the medical side. So I think for all of us as an organization, you take a day off, you're giving somebody else an advantage. But sometimes having a day off can also give you an advantage to be your best. So ideally, man, like just what's coming is just preparing for the season, grow in this industry, make myself smarter, learn more. I'm so open to learning different things and being around the best coaches in the world, man. Like that's like the biggest honor I have is learning from the best, and I couldn't ask for any more than the best coaches I have in our organization and learning from them.
No, absolutely. Can you name maybe one person on staff at the Orlando Magic that you maybe wanted to give like a shout out, or maybe that they're maybe underpraised, or you just want to give them some flowers?
It's hard to say just one, so
Sure.
I'm gonna stick to that. So ideally, Orlando has had changes in staff and coaches over time. Recently, aside from Coach Burgos being a big influence in my career since day one, Coach Tador Pandolf, like I mentioned, he's our director, and obviously Arnie Kander, who's pretty much the VP of our medical and performance side. Like learning from those two have been the biggest blessing in my life, and those two were the main guys that kind of gave me the opportunity to be called up. Anthony Parker has been a big part of my mentorship. Adetunji Adedipe, big part of my mentorship. Kevin Tiller, these guys have kind of breeded me early to where I'm at today in the organization, have really helped a lot. And I think a lot of that does come down to when you're around people that believe in you, you're going to keep applying what you learn and get better at it. And that's like what they have given me the flowers. And Coach Mosley, when he first got hired, he got to know me at a personal level, and he trusted me too. So every time I see him, we always have great energy and good vibes. So getting that confidence and love from him kind of keeps me in check that, hey, everybody around us in each department, whether it's medical, performance, or basketball, everybody's on the same page. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely.
shout out to the front office too. Jeff Waltman, John Hammond, like those guys they've seen me grow from that year one I had in 2017 to now. So thankful for them as well.
No, absolutely. We got the NIL podcast, and I'm here with
Coach Haseeb.
He's the one and only, and he is the GOAT, man. And I'm just so excited that we could just share this time together and really like hear your story. It's so important that they hear your story, and that maybe a lot of people don't even know some of it too. So we have NIL podcast, NBA Summer League. Let's go.
My dog.
Yes, sir.